Hi, this is Jeff with GMT-5.com, and we're going to be taking a look at the Autodromo Prototipo Chronograph today. Autodromo is a lifestyle brand that produces a range of automotive-inspired goods: sunglasses, stringback gloves, and of course watches. Autodromo's founder and creator, Bradley Price, was an industrial designer in a former life, so he knows how to manufacture products. Every color, every material, every millimeter on his products are to his exact specifications, and the Prototipo illustrates this relentless attention to detail. My first reaction to the Prototipo was whether or not I could actually pull it off wearing it. In pictures, its 70s inspired barrel case makes it look large, but really the integrated lug design keeps the watch practically sized. It's 42 millimeters wide, 48 millimeters long, and 11.5 millimeters thick. It wears surprisingly well and even fits under a shirt cuff quite easily. The finishing on the case is unheard of at this price point. You have this really beautiful radial brushing extending from the bezel and dominating the front of the case. Then it abruptly transitions to a polished stripe that accentuates the barrel shape of the case. It's these sharp and crisp lines on the Prototipo that belong on a way more expensive watch. The PVD-coated Nero shares the same case shape as the silver dial version and also has the same texture radial brushing, but it uses matte surfaces over polished. Overall, the Nero has a serious and stealthy case, while the plain steel has a more luxurious appeal. In addition to the case shape reminiscent of vintage racing chronographs from Hoyer and Omega, you have a couple automotive references. One is the lug nut-shaped crown, and another in the way the case back is secured with screws. Another interesting thing about the case back is that it's curved so that it doesn't hug the wrist at all. Most case backs conform to the wrist, but that increases the contact area, and discomfort tends to be proportional to the amount of contact between the wrist and the watch. The dial is executed exceptionally well. Everything looks straight out of a race car dashboard. Both the Nero and the silver dial version share the same layout, but the Nero competes on color, while the wider use of color in the silver dial allows the well-proportioned and balanced layout to be the star of the show. You have these raised and luminous primary hour markers around the dial, and they probably stand out more on the Nero due to the black color. At 9 o'clock, there is a 60-minute totalizer for the chronograph, and at 3 o'clock, you have a 24-hour indicator, which is not independently adjustable. I love the date position at 6 o'clock, as the placement of the aperture maintains the symmetry established by the dual registers. My only complaint has to do with the length of the hands. They're too similar. You do get used to it, but there are certain times when it's more confusing than others, like when the hands form an angle of 45 degrees or less. Sometimes it's hard to know if it's 6:25 or a little after 5:30. Inside of the Prototipo is not your average quartz chronograph. You're going to find a Seiko's Caliber VK64, a mecha quartz movement. The timekeeping is done by your standard quartz regulated movement, but the chronograph is purely mechanical between the hands and the pushers, so you get the best of both worlds. See, you press down on the pusher and you get that very sure click. The stopwatch hand moves in 1/5 of a second increments as opposed to a second at a time, and when you reset it, it instantly pops back to 0 instead of doing that robotic sweep that quartz chronographs are known for. Both the Nero and the silver dial versions come on Italian leather racing straps that require 0 break-in period. Within moments of putting on the watch, it'll melt on your wrist. The black strap on the Nero completes the serious and confident look, while the pumpkin strap on the silver dial version is a bit more playful and brings out the orange accents on the dial. This might be the first time I'm saying it, but there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to change straps on this watch. Both watches are very sporty but tastefully executed, and you can definitely wear these every day. And if you have the right tailored look and attitude, I think you could even dress it up with a suit. A lot of folks have hard limits on what they'll spend on quartz watches. I do, and this is one of the first watches that really makes me question that every time I put on the watch. It's that good. The Mega Quartz movement is partially responsible for that, but the dial design, case finishing, and strap are really what I enjoy the most. I say this about a few brands like Oris and Longines, that I think they do a great job paying attention to the whole watch. Too many brands do one or two things well and then blow through the rest of the watch as cheaply as possible in order to shoehorn the product into a particular price point. You see it all the time with $1,000 chronographs that have ETA movements with 0 decoration and poor quality straps. The look is original, it's tasteful, it's true to a racing lifestyle. The strap is comfortable, the movement is interesting and robust. The case exceeds finishing expectations. It may not be a perfect watch, but about any of its criticisms, you can't call them shortcuts or oversights. At $625, it's hard to say that about any chronograph on the market today, mechanical or otherwise. Until next time, this is Jeff with GMT-5.com, and we'll see you again soon.